In 2023, a Canadian named Sarah retired. She was 43 years old. She had spent 18 years as a high school teacher in Ontario. Her salary never exceeded $95,000. She did not inherit money. She did not start a business. She did not get lucky on a stock pick or a crypto trade. She ran the math. She followed a system. And at 43, she stopped working because she no longer had to. Her portfolio, approximately $1.4 million, invested in low-cost ETFs inside a TFSA and RRSP, generating enough in annual returns and dividends that she could withdraw $56,000 per year, indefinitely, without depleting the principal. She will also receive CPP at 70, boosted by deferral to approximately $1,800 per month, and OAS at 65. By the time those kick in, her annual withdrawal need drops significantly. The math compounds in her favor over time. This is not a fantasy. It is not reserved for tech founders or Bay Street bankers. It is a specific, calculable, achievable outcome for any Canadian who understands three things: the number that determines everything, the savings rate required to hit it, and the account sequencing that makes the withdrawal tax efficient. This video covers all three in order. By the end, you will know exactly whether early retirement is mathematically achievable for you, what your specific number is, and the step-by-step system to get there. Before we get to the math, a definition. Because early retirement means something specific, and what it means is important. Early retirement, in the framework most commonly called FIRE, which stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early, does not necessarily mean sitting on a beach doing nothing for 40 years. It means reaching a point where work becomes optional, where your investment portfolio generates enough income to cover your living expenses indefinitely, without requiring you to trade your time for money. What you do after that point is entirely up to you. Some people travel, some start businesses, some volunteer, create, consult, or pursue work they love on their own terms. Some genuinely do retire in the traditional sense. The defining feature is not the absence of activity. It is the absence of financial dependency. This distinction matters, because the goal of FIRE is not to escape your life. It is to own your time. And in Canada, where the average working career spans 35 to 40 years of obligatory employment, most of it in someone else's structure, owning your time by your early 40s changes the fundamental equation of your adult life. The 4 FIRE variants most relevant to Canadians. Lean FIRE, retiring on a minimal budget. Typically $40,000 per year or less in annual spending. Requires a smaller portfolio, but demands significant lifestyle simplicity. Common in lower cost of living areas of Canada, smaller cities, rural areas. Regular FIRE, retiring on a moderate budget. Typically $50,000 to $70,000 per year. The most common target for middle-class Canadians pursuing early retirement. Fat FIRE, retiring with a larger income. $80,000 to $120,000 plus per year. Requires a significantly larger portfolio and typically a higher income career to accumulate fast enough. Barista FIRE, reaching partial financial independence and supplementing with part-time or passion work. A $800,000 portfolio plus $20,000 per year in part-time income can create the same financial security as a $1.2 million portfolio, with more engagement and social connection. For this video, we are going to focus on regular FIRE at $60,000 per year in annual spending, the most achievable target for the median Canadian household. Your action step: Define your FIRE number category right now. What is your current annual spending? What would your ideal early retirement spending look like? Be specific, because that number is the foundation of every calculation that follows. Here is the vault from the opening, the number that determines everything. It is called the 4% rule, and it is the foundation of every early retirement calculation. The 4% rule comes from the Trinity Study, a landmark piece of financial research published in 1998 by 3 finance professors at Trinity University in the U.S. They studied historical market returns across multiple asset allocations and time periods. Their conclusion: a portfolio invested in a diversified mix of stocks and bonds can sustain annual withdrawals of 4% of the initial portfolio value, adjusted for inflation each year, for at least 30 years with a very high probability of success. Subsequent research has extended the analysis, and for time horizons longer than 30 years, which is exactly the case for a 43-year-old retiree, a slightly more conservative withdrawal rate of 3.5% is often recommended. We will use both figures. How to calculate your FIRE number? Your FIRE number equals your annual spending times 25. This is the portfolio size at which a 4% withdrawal covers your full annual spending indefinitely. Canadian examples at $60,000 annual spending. $60,000 times 25 equals $1,500,000. At $1.5 million, you withdraw 4%, $60,000 per year. Historically, a globally diversified portfolio at this withdrawal rate has sustained withdrawals for 30-plus years in approximately 95% of historical scenarios. For a longer retirement, say 45 years from age 43 to 88, the 3.5% rule suggests $60,000 divided by 0.035 equals $1,714,286 target. The Canadian CPP and OAS adjustment. Here is where the Canadian early retirement story gets significantly more achievable than the U.S. equivalent, because Canada has CPP and OAS that eventually supplement the portfolio. A Canadian who retires at 43 and defers CPP to age 70 receives a 42% boost to their CPP benefit compared to taking it at 65. For someone who worked 18 full years at average earnings, the deferred CPP benefit at 70 might be approximately $1,400 to $1,800 per month, $16,800 to $21,600 per year. OAS at 65, approximately $8,400 per year at current rates. This means that from age 65 to 70, the portfolio needs to cover slightly more. But from age 70 onward, CPP and OAS together contribute approximately $25,000 to $30,000 per year, significantly reducing the portfolio withdrawal requirement. The practical implication: a 43-year-old Canadian targeting $60,000 per year in early retirement may only need to fund $60,000 per year from the portfolio until age 65, after which OAS reduces the withdrawal need by approximately $8,400. After age 70, CPP reduces it further by $16,800 to $21,600. From age 70 onward, the portfolio may only need to generate $30,000 to $35,000 per year. At 4% withdrawal, that requires only $750,000 to $875,000, significantly less than the $1.5 million FIRE target. This is the bridge strategy, and it changes the math considerably. The adjusted Canadian FIRE target at $60,000 per year accounting for CPP at 70 and OAS at 65. A Canadian targeting $60,000 in annual early retirement spending may only need approximately $1,200,000 to $1,400,000 rather than the full $1,500,000, because the government benefits eventually shoulder part of the load. Your action step: calculate your FIRE number right now. Annual spending times 25. Then subtract the present value of your expected CPP and OAS benefits. The result is your actual portfolio target, the number your investments need to reach before work becomes optional. Here is where the rubber meets the road. Because knowing your FIRE number is step one. Understanding how long it takes to get there, at different incomes and savings rates, is step two. And the most important finding from early retirement research is this: the savings rate, not the income, is the primary variable that determines how quickly you reach financial independence. This feels counterintuitive. Surely a higher income gets you there faster? It does, but only if you save the additional income rather than spending it. And as we covered in our lifestyle inflation video, most Canadians spend every raise within 6 months. The savings rate matters more than income because it affects two things simultaneously: how fast your portfolio grows and how small your required FIRE number is. Because spending less means needing a smaller portfolio to retire on. The savings rate and years to retirement, assuming 7% real return, starting from zero. A Canadian starting at age 25 with a 50% savings rate reaches financial independence at approximately age 42. At 60% savings rate, approximately age 37 or 38. These are not extreme numbers. A Canadian earning $100,000 after tax and spending $50,000 has a 50% savings rate. That is achievable, particularly outside of Toronto and Vancouver, in cities where the cost of living is lower. Real Canadian examples at $80,000 after tax income. At 20% savings rate, $16,000 per year saved, reaches $1.4 million in approximately 37 years, retiring at 62. Better than 65. Not early. At 50% savings rate, $40,000 per year saved, reaches $1.4 million in approximately 17 years, retiring at 42. The lifestyle inflation trap. The average Canadian saves approximately 5% to 7% of after-tax income. At that rate, financial independence arrives at approximately age 65 to 67. Standard retirement. No options. Work becomes optional only when the government says so. Every percentage point added to the savings rate accelerates the timeline. The first 10 percentage points of savings rate improvement, from 5% to 15%, shave approximately 8 to 10 years off the retirement date. The next 10 points, from 15% to 25%, shave another 6 to 8 years. The income threshold where FIRE becomes achievable. In Canada's high-cost cities, a meaningful savings rate requires a meaningful income. At $60,000 after tax in Toronto, covering rent, food, transport, and basic living expenses leaves almost nothing to save. FIRE on $60,000 in Toronto is extremely difficult. At $80,000 to $90,000 after tax, a 35% to 40% savings rate becomes achievable for most households. That is the income sweet spot where regular FIRE within 20 to 25 years becomes realistic. Outside of Toronto and Vancouver, the same savings rates are achievable at lower incomes. A household earning $70,000 after tax in Calgary, Ottawa, or Halifax can achieve a 40% savings rate more comfortably than a $90,000 household in downtown Toronto. Your action step: calculate your current savings rate right now. After-tax income minus total annual spending, divided by after-tax income, multiply by 100. Whatever that number is, every 5 percentage points you add reduces your years to retirement by approximately 3 to 5 years. That trade-off is worth understanding deeply. Here is the Canadian-specific layer that most FIRE content misses. Because most FIRE content is American. Canada's registered account system, the TFSA, RRSP, and potentially an FHSA, creates a specific sequencing strategy for building and withdrawing a FIRE portfolio that is meaningfully different from the U.S. 401k/IRA framework. Getting the sequencing right can save tens of thousands of dollars in tax over a 40-year retirement. Getting it wrong can mean unnecessary tax drag at exactly the stage when your portfolio is most important. The accumulation phase. Building the FIRE portfolio. Priority 1, TFSA. Max it every year. $7,000 in 2026. Invest in XEQT or VFV. All growth is tax-free, and all withdrawals are tax-free. At any age, at any time, with no income impact. For early retirees. The TFSA is the most flexible account because withdrawals do not affect income-tested benefits, do not count as taxable income, and can be recontributed the following year. Priority 2. RRSP. Contribute aggressively during your high-income working years. RRSP contributions reduce taxable income at your marginal rate. For a Canadian earning $90,000 in Ontario, a $20,000 ARRSP contribution generates approximately $7,400 in immediate tax refund. Reinvested, that is immediate 37% return on the contribution amount. The key RRSP insight for early retirees: the RRSP is most valuable when contributions are made at a high marginal rate and withdrawals happen at a low marginal rate. An early retiree withdrawing $40,000 per year from an RRSP pays significantly less tax on those withdrawals than their marginal rate when they contributed. That spread, contribution rate minus withdrawal rate, is the RRSP's core tax advantage. Priority 3. Non-registered account. Once TFSA and RRSP are maxed, invest in non-registered. Favor investments that generate capital gains and eligible Canadian dividends. The most tax-efficient income types outside registered accounts. The withdrawal phase. Drawing down the FIRE portfolio. This is where Canadian early retirement gets nuanced, because the order you draw from accounts dramatically affects your lifetime tax bill. Ages 43 to 65. The pre-government benefits phase. Draw primarily from non-registered accounts and TFSA. Keep RRSP growing as long as possible. In low-income years, strategically convert RRSP to RRIF, or take RRSP withdrawals at low tax rates. The goal: gradually drain the RRSP during years when total income is low, paying minimal tax on each withdrawal. Eligible Canadian dividend income in non-registered accounts can be received at very low effective tax rates in early retirement, especially when total income is modest. A Canadian with $30,000 in eligible dividends and no other income pays very little federal tax. Ages 65 to 70. OAS begins. OAS income, $700 per month, indexed to inflation, begins. TFSA withdrawals remain tax-free. Continue strategic RRSP draws. Be aware of the OAS clawback threshold. Income above approximately $90,997, 2026, triggers a 15% clawback on OAS. For most early retirees with careful withdrawal planning, This is manageable. Age 70, CPP begins. Deferred CPP kicks in at 42% above the age 65 rate. The combination of CPP plus OAS covers $25,000 to $30,000 per year. Portfolio withdrawal requirement drops significantly. The RRSP Meltdown strategy. For early retirees, the RRSP Meltdown is a critical tax planning tool. Between retirement at 43 and mandatory RRIF conversion at 71, there are 28 years to strategically draw down the RRSP in low tax rate years. Drawing $20,000 to $30,000 per year from the RRSP during early retirement, when total income is low, can significantly reduce the RRSP balance before it must convert to a RRIF at 71, preventing forced large withdrawals at higher tax rates in later life. The TFSA as the ultimate flexible reserve. The TFSA should ideally be the last account tapped because TFSA withdrawals are always tax-free, never affect benefits, and recontribution room is restored the following year. Keeping a large TFSA balance provides maximum flexibility for unexpected expenses, market downturns, or income gaps. Your action step: map your current account balances, TFSA, RRSP, non-registered. Then map the order in which you plan to draw from each in retirement. Does that order minimize lifetime tax? If you are not sure, that is the question for a fee-only financial planner focused on retirement decumulation. Here is the part of the early retirement conversation that most financial content skips. The math is achievable. The accounts are available. The strategy is clear. And yet, for many Canadians who reach financial independence, the transition to early retirement is harder than accumulating the money. Because identity, purpose, social structure, and health care are real challenges, and they are not solved by a large TFSA balance. Challenge 1: Identity and purpose. In Canada, as in most developed countries, professional identity is deeply embedded in how people understand themselves. What do you do? Is often the second question asked in social settings. Work provides structure, status, community, and a sense of contribution. Early retirees frequently report that the first 6 to 12 months of financial independence are disorienting, not because the money runs out, but because the absence of external structure reveals a lack of internal clarity about what they actually want their days to look like. The fix: define what you are retiring to, not just what you are retiring from. Before pulling the retirement trigger, have a clear vision of how a typical week looks. What fills the mornings? What gives you energy? What does meaningful engagement look like outside a professional context? Challenge 2: Social isolation. Most social infrastructure for working-age Canadians is built around professional environments. Colleagues become friends. Routines create community. Early retirement removes that infrastructure, particularly if a spouse or partner continues working and your peer group is largely still employed. The fix: build social infrastructure before you retire. Volunteer commitments, sports leagues, community organizations, creative projects. Any structure that creates regular social engagement independent of professional identity. Challenge 3: Healthcare. Canada's public health care system provides universal coverage for physician and hospital services. But dental, vision, prescription drugs, and extended health benefits, which most Canadians access through employer group plans, are not covered by provincial health insurance. An early retiree in their 40s and 50s without employer benefits must either purchase individual health insurance, approximately $150 to $300 per month for a comprehensive individual plan depending on age and province, or budget for out-of-pocket costs. This is a real and underestimated expense in Canadian fire planning, and it should be factored into the annual spending figure used to calculate the fire number. Challenge 4. The One More Year Syndrome. Paradoxically, many Canadians who reach their fire number do not retire. The psychological uncertainty of leaving a stable income is so powerful that they convince themselves to work one more year. Indefinitely. One more year becomes 2. 2 becomes 5. The freedom they planned for never arrives. The fix. Treat the fire number as a commitment device, not a suggestion. Decide in advance. When the number is reached, the transition begins. Set an exit date. Tell people about it. Make it real and concrete before the moment arrives. Challenge 5. Sequence of returns. Risk. Retiring at 43 into a market downturn is meaningfully more dangerous than retiring at 65 into the same downturn because a 43-year-old has a 45-year retirement horizon, and a severe early sequence of negative returns can deplete a portfolio before the recovery arrives. The mitigation: maintain a 1 to 2 year cash buffer at retirement. In a market downturn, draw from cash rather than selling equities at depressed prices. This allows the equity portfolio to recover before further withdrawals resume. Additionally, the flexibility to return to part-time work for a year or two during a severe market downturn is a powerful insurance policy. This is one reason Barista FIRE is more resilient than full fire for most Canadians. Your action step: before calculating whether your fire number is achievable, define what you are retiring to. Write a description of a typical week in early retirement. If that week sounds genuinely compelling, you are ready to build toward it. If it sounds vague or uncertain, that is the work to do first. Let's come back to where we started. Sarah, 43 years old, high school teacher, retired. Here is exactly what got her there. She defined her annual spending at $52,000 per year, comfortable but intentional. That gave her a fire number of $1,300,000, adjusted for CPP and OAS at 65 and 70. She saved 48% of her after-tax income across her 18-year career, averaging $28,000 per year in savings on a teacher's salary, by living below her means and resisting lifestyle inflation through every raise. She maximized her TFSA every year, investing in XEQT. She contributed aggressively to her RRSP during her highest income years, capturing $5,000 to $8,000 in annual tax refunds that she immediately reinvested. She invested 0 in actively managed mutual funds, 0 in individual stocks, 0 in anything that charged more than 0.25% per year. She deferred CPP to 70. She maintains a 2-year cash buffer. She draws $52,000 per year, primarily from her non-registered account and TFSA in early years, with a strategic RRSP Meltdown of $20,000 per year to drain the registered account at low tax rates before the mandatory RRIF conversion. She is 43. She works when she wants to. She travels when she wants to. She will receive CPP at 70, and at that point, the portfolio withdrawal drops by almost half. She did not earn more than most Canadians. She did not get lucky. She ran the math. And then she followed it. Here is the summary of everything this video covered. 1. Fire means work becomes optional. Define which variant, lean, regular, fat, or barista, fits your life. 2. Your fire number is annual spending times 25. Adjust for CPP and OAS The Canadian adjusted target is lower than the pure math suggests. 3. The savings rate is the primary lever. Every 5 percentage points added shaves 3 to 5 years off the retirement date. 4. Build in a TFSA first, RRSP second, non-registered third. Withdraw in reverse, with a strategic RRSP meltdown across the 28 years before mandatory RRIF conversion. 5. The psychological challenges are real. Define what you are retiring to. Build social infrastructure before you leave. Budget for health care. Set a hard exit date. Maintain the cash buffer. The math is not complicated. The discipline is. And the time to start building toward it is not when the number feels within reach. It is now.